Is 2xKO too hard? No, it's not, bruh. So, there's been this constant conversation over the course of the Alpha Lab about the game's difficulty, and it's hard to escape this topic, man. I've just seen a lot of content creators cover it, and I just want to end this discussion once and for all, because I feel like people have the complete wrong idea here. What we're going to do to break this down is go over the layers of why people are saying the game is too hard, and then see if there's any actual validity to it. One thing we have to recognize first, though, is that a lot of people saying this are having their literal first fighting game experiences here, whether it's the League homies trying it out, or just anyone who's caught wind of the Alpha Lab, really. So the best angle to approach this from is the new wave of players, because they're either going to bounce off fighting games forever or find a new home in the FGC. Layer 1, it's a fighting game. I think this point has been glanced over by nearly everyone talking about this, and it's super relevant to getting people into the game. Fighting games have this natural sort of repellent to people starting out, and as much as game devs try to dumb things down or remove directional inputs, the truth is, nothing is going to be as good for a new player as these two things: a proper tutorial and skill-based matchmaking. Let's be honest though, fighting games are just not intuitive. Think about Valorant or any shooter game, Apex, doesn't matter, where you just tell the person to just click heads. It's so much easier for someone starting out to focus on that. In fighting games, there's learning your character's buttons, blocking, actually getting a combo, the fact that it's kind of turn-based, and these things can be the barrier to knowing what the hell you're doing when you're a new player. It's just not a common experience for people that play video games. You just gotta think about this. Most other PvP games either have starting concept like clicking heads that are easy to understand and start doing, or even when they don't, you usually have teammates to ease you through it. 1v1 just makes things a lot harder for people mentally, and as someone who's grinded to Challenger in League, I'll be the first to tell you it's just way easier to accept the outcome of a match when there's 9 other people who can be affecting it. When it's all on you, there's some real proper mental you'll have to have, or you're just gonna drive yourself insane. Also, I think a lot of people see the skill gap between them and other fighting game players when they're starting out, and through that they decide it's just too much to take on just to enjoy a game, you know? Because at least in another game, you could be bad with your friend instead of being bad against your friend. Thankfully though, 2xKO has a duos mode, so that actually changes quite a lot for new players, and it's super good, it's super good. I think a good thing to note though, is that there's this weird culture in fighting games where people coming in think they have to be good at them to enjoy them, or that becoming a good player is the end goal, which it's just not. It just so happens that the aim for a lot of us is that because it's a 1v1 more personal journey, but it doesn't have to be that way for everyone out there. That being said, you can see there's some genuinely valid barriers to fighting games that new players universally experience, but I do think 2xKO on actual launch will have the opportunity to change that. Most of these issues can be seriously curbed by having a super clean, targeted towards developing new players tutorial, and a matchmaking system that puts them against people around their skill. Layer 2, acknowledging the opposition. Now we can get away from the universal fighting game experience and talk more about the specific common complaints in 2xKO. What I've been seeing going around is that TODs are everywhere, combos are too long, the tutorial is bare bones, and that there's nothing stopping someone from destroying the life out of you if you're new. One post I saw that got a lot of traction was Scooch's post, a former League content creator, where he said he went on a 24 loss streak and that this game wasn't for him, which afterwards he kind of tried to save with some other tweets about how it's actually fun, he's having a good time, because I don't think he expected it to get as much traction as it did from the FGC. But I've also seen people discuss how the S1 and S2 inputs are making it difficult for new and old players alike due to the amount of buttons and changed muscle memory. For this video though, I'm going to be focusing, like I said, on the newer people getting into 2xKO, as anyone who's an experienced fighting game player will eventually just be able to adjust to that. So the difficulty for them is more trivial since they're just going to stick it out. I genuinely think this game has just way too many fucking buttons though, bro. I rebinded mine to something more comfortable since I play on analog, and I'm used to B on the Xbox controller being the heavy button, you know, like DBSD, Guilty Gear, all those games have the heavy button on B. And I still don't have enough buttons on my controller for this game to feel clean, dog. Like, it's ass. I think the best controller layout is probably something similar to the default, though. I can hardly imagine how annoying this game is to bind on other peripherals if I'm having problems on a regular-ass Xbox controller. These are the kinds of things that, if you have a strong opinion on them, you should be sharing them in the survey after the Alpha Lab, or just on social media in general, because they're literally looking everywhere, these devs. Finally, there's also the fact that it's a tag game, and there's a crap ton of mechanics for people to pick up on that are just not intuitive at all. And especially to non-tag players or first-time fighting game players, some of the mechanics are just really hard to understand. Layer 3, the truth. This game is still probably a year away from development, and the devs have constantly told us that this is a super early version of the game. And this Alpha Lab is supposed to be for us to tell them what changes we actually want to make so they can actually do it on launch. So people expecting certain levels of polish, like the tutorial, It's just ridiculous in my opinion. The game also has pulse combos, which is just auto combos that are honestly pretty good if you're fighting people that don't have super long combos or TODs, which, surprise, surprise, is actually quite a lot of people. There's also skill-based matchmaking, but it's honestly super crap right now. From the dev tweet that I read, you have to leave a lobby either after being destroyed by people or destroying people enough times and then rejoin into a new lobby. It'll change the general skill of the lobby you end up in. I mean, what is that, bro? Like, that is so weird. More on the auto combos though. They are super, super important for new players, in my opinion. Otherwise, they'll just sit there pressing one button and literally doing 1 damage every time they get a hit. I'm new enough to the FGC where I still remember my first times on games like Street Fighter or starting out for the first time in Dragon Ball. I know how important it is to be able to learn the systems of a game and move around and have fun before being forced into learning a combo and training tool at that level. So yes, the TODs and the long combos are unbalanced, but the devs have acknowledged this and that the game is not going to be TOD centric and that they're going to be looking into toning down super long combos. Mainly though, I think people forget that not everyone is going to be using these combos and that skill-based matchmaking is just the straight up counter to this. The issue is, since we're in an alpha lab, which is just a beta, there's this weird lobby matchmaking that is just not good. So we definitely gotta tell them that in this survey. This shit's ass, bro. When the game comes out though, or ranked is a thing, think of literally any other Riot game or Street Fighter or any game with a proper and good rank system. You'll be able to put yourself against people that are actually at your level, so you won't have to worry about getting TOD'd in bronze. It's just a non-issue really. As for this tutorial being bare bones, yeah, it's horrible. I was surprised that it was even there, honestly, at that state, but I guess they had to have something. The thing is though, this is the last of their concerns for the playtest, given how far the game is from coming out. And I know I sound like I'm assuming a lot of things there. I'm assuming that they know that, but I'm not glazing Riot. I would honestly hate to do that given what they've put me through in League. But I do like to be objective about things. And I know Riot knows exactly what they're doing and what modern fighting games are lacking, or the FGC in general, what they've been lacking for forever, which is a tutorial. They're literally the carnivores of the gaming industry, Riot. They take a game and they make it a polished version so they can monopolize the market, which is exactly what they did to create League and Valorant. So I have no doubts in my mind we'll end up getting a highly polished and a highly useful tutorial for new players. If not, Riot's gonna take like the most massive L. They have to do a good tutorial, and I think they know that. I just don't see a world where it's not the best tutorial that we've seen in a fighting game, you know? I just hope that they section it properly for new players so they're not bombarded with too much information at the start. As for there being too many buttons, honestly, yeah, this shit is just straight up whack. I wish they did things a lot differently in terms of this, because when I started out in Dragon Ball, being able to do a quarter circle was honestly super easy. I'm surprised they're using down down as an input, because it's honestly kind of hard to do that input cleanly, especially on analog. And if you're doing it quickly, sometimes you get down and then down right, or down left. You know what I'm talking about? If you're a fighting game player, you might be saying, oh, newbie, but don't use analog, it's horrible. Well, analog works super well in honestly a lot of games like Granblue and DBFZ and Guilty Gear. I mean, dude, Ending Walker is literally an analog player for Street Fighter 6, and he got 3rd place at EVO. I think people are going to have to accept that analog is a valid way to play, and it's going to be the preferred method for a lot of casual people coming in, which is the most important part because of how accessible the controllers are and how used to it people are to playing on analog. Obviously, for the down-down inputs and stuff, it can be trained, but it's just so much more easy and natural to do a quarter circle, in my opinion. I don't know, might be biased there, but I don't think it is. It's overcomplicating things so much by trying to uncomplicate things. Too many buttons, dude, straight up. For the tag mechanics and mechanics in general, yeah, there's also a lot here, but I think this tutorial will help massively in this regard for new players. The truth is, we're getting a game with a decades plus worth of depth, that's the plan at least. So this isn't just some fighting game that's going to get a new version in 4 years. It's going to be a game with constant updates, so the groundwork needs to have complicated systems to provide longevity. That being said, new players don't really have to worry about every little mechanic, or even to expect to know them while they're starting out. I believe if the tutorial can give them the basics of being able to use their assist, tag out their character, play the damn game, then that should be enough. And over time, they can pick up on the small things like parry and push block, etc. To wrap things up, I feel like while there's many genuine complaints about the fighting game experience in general and 2x KO's super early gameplay, the whole 2x KO is too hard conversation it loses its validity to me because of two main things. One, new players just need proper guidance from the game because fighting games have natural barriers to entry, and two, skill-based matchmaking fixes the whole losing to everyone issue. So we have something really special here when you think about it. So let's not get it twisted and think the game is just too difficult, or its complex systems are going to be what drives people away. But instead, it's going to be how the game decides to guide these new players towards learning and who they actually match them up against.